welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by John and 10th Man in G+, together with Arwin, who's joined during my intro, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all. Happy New Year as well.
Thank you, Nathan. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good afternoon, Happy New Year.
I have very little enthusiasm for the new year. An arbitrary number has changed in the middle of winter. So to me, it's almost meaningless. I'll wish everyone Happy New Year when it gets to spring. But just to, I don't know, go along with the conformity of assigning an arbitrary date as being new. Happy New Year, everyone! Isn't it joyous? In the meantime...
Just do it. Just do it, Nathan. We'll get 2 of them out of you.
2 Happy New Years. There's 3.
Yes.
Anyway, we'll go through housekeeping. As there is actually a mass deception, most of the Western world are under this misapprehension that they're standing on a spherical surface, merely because a philosophy has indicated that there is a way of viewing the stars, and that way of viewing the stars, using a ball Earth beneath your feet in philosophy, is actually the world that we live on. Of course, that would require that we had some demonstration of physical Earth curve edges that they call the horizon. Is there any demonstrations or evidence that we have a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature?
No evidence at all.
Nope.
In fact, using their radius, it shows us that there is no evidence to match their radius. So they picked the wrong radius for a sphere if they're trying to fool us.
Check it out. John Watson in the side chat says, no notifications. Smash that share button. Very important if no notifications have gone out, given the effort I've gone to on this deeply important day to me. So please share the show. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Not only do they not have a sphere to demonstrate, but they can't demonstrate Earth-based Coriolis either. So no to that as well.
Any scientific evidence, of gravity?
What is gravity? What do they say it is?
I don't know. Moving on. To quote Neil deGrasse Tyson.
It's in a non-force force, but it's not one, but I could think of it as one.
Gravity is not a force, but you can think of it as a force, George Musa. It's not really a
that's
force of
me
gravity
thinking
at all.
about it, so
Brian
that's
Cox.
not evidence.
We don't know. Next question.
Oh, that's Neil deGrasse.
Right. What about any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Am I going to answer all these questions today?
No. Don't be shy, Discord.
No, no, and no.
Very concise,
Thank you.
George. Thank you. What about any evidence of the distance to the sun?
That would be a no.
And now a
There's no
weather report
measurable
update
distance to
from
it.
our Amsterdam correspondent. Go ahead, Arwin.
Amsterdam, and not in Amsterdam.
Where are
The
you?
Netherlands.
Oh, my bad. I thought you were close to Amsterdam.
Oh yeah, close enough. But everything is close to Amsterdam by other country standards. So, because it's a very small country.
Fair
But
enough.
no distance to the sun, because what is the sun?
I don't know
Is it
that
the
either.
thing? Is it the thing to have a distance to in the first place?
One of those
What
things
would-
now. Well, both my kids can speak now, but certainly the older one. I ask her, what do you think it is? I asked her what the moon was a couple of nights ago because it was full and looking really pretty, and she said it's Mr. Money. I was like, what? She's like, it's Mr. Money. I said, you think the moon is Mr. Money? She said, yeah. And she went, hello, Mr. Money. I was like, okay, I'll join in with that. Hello, Mr. Money, if that's what you think. She didn't know though, really. It's not money. Anyway. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No.
Nonsense.
Didn't we say yesterday this was going to change to supposed instead of presupposed?
Well, they presuppose it's spherical. The begging the question fallacy has been destroyed by the black swan. I mean, well, might as well ask that question. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius? That would be the presupposition in the molten iron core presupposition.
Black swan.
On the other hand, by even using the word core, the spherical nature is already kind of implied.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And just another thank you
Well,
to George. As we're missing a chocolate saying thank you. Whispers, black
Based
swan.
based on the black swan picture that we have of the two oil platforms, the radius went from 3959 to 264,000 miles. So I would say a strong no on that.
What about any evidence that you can have gas pressure, that would be the stuff we're breathing, without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Impossible.
Well, from what I've heard, gravity's not strong enough to keep the gas pressure to the ball. Rumpus said it.
Yeah, I slightly misquoted him. I think it's gravity isn't sufficient to hold the gas there rather than here. But obviously we're talking about here. We're talking about the nature of reality, and it's contextualised in the rest of the conversation. But the actual quote is there rather than here. Not that it's that important. We all know what we're discussing here. Or there.
Well, he used the key word insufficient. So wherever it is, it's insufficient.
Yes.
Indeedy do. Gas isn't going down, go boom boom.
Gravity is not enough.
Insufficient, so I hear. Not that we need a not force to be described as insufficient by a fundamentalist zealot that believes in this not force because he's been told to believe it as a force simultaneously after being told it isn't one. You know, we're not concerned with whether or not non-forces are insufficient or sufficient. They don't do anything. Conceptual only. But it was just interesting to hear the Fundy tell us how insufficient his non-force force is. Also very amusing.
Do you remember the caller yesterday, Ed Masto, I believe he goes by as well?
Stranger danger.
He was he was trying to figure out, okay, if we're in a container, and that's first he admitted that a sky vacuum next to gas pressure, we would all die. He admitted to that pretty much. And then he says, okay, so if we're enclosed in a container, why isn't the gas equal at every part of the container? And then you went through with the geobiochemical cycle and talked to him about the dynamic system and how'd you get the pressure in the first place. And for some reason, he got stuck there, and then he switched to that one little part. I can't remember exactly what he said. I have to look at my notes, and you caught him on it. He was talking about, do you recall it?
What if we don't have a dynamic system or words to that effect?
Yes, that was it. That was it.
Well, we do. End of that conversation.
Well, when he said that, he changed the subject matter. And also, he would have to now say, somehow we got gas pressure without a container, when he already admitted you got to have a container.
Right. Just for the audience's benefit, gas expands in all directions. To fill the availability of volume it has to fill. And you can describe that process as the free expansion into a vacuum, described by the second law of thermodynamics. Therefore, if the sky was a vacuum, the gas would expand into it. Now, given the amount of space they claim space is, how ironic that they would call this space space, we wouldn't have any gas to breathe. We would be at 10 to the minus 17 torr, a vacuum, at sea level. We wouldn't have any gas. It wouldn't develop in the first instance. Now, their rebuttal to any of these claims, based on natural law, I might add, would be to assert a red herring fallacy about how we have gas pressure differentials. Now, you can't achieve a gas pressure differential in the first instance if you don't have containment. And their heliocentric philosophy suggests, in violation of natural law, that we are on a sphere with gas pressure and no containment in a vacuum. Absurd. The sky is not a vacuum. Outer space is fake. Shout out to Unitox Femi, who's actually on the panel. Thank you very much for the super chat, Sasha. Earth, obviously, inobservably curving, but flat. Yeah, that would be cognitive dissonance summed up in a super chat. Thanks, Sasha. That or Unitox Femi, who's named in YouTube.
He slipped in that if statement, though, didn't he?
He did.
He was trying to cast doubt.
Yeah, we discussed that on the pre-show. Come on, member today if you want to watch the pre-show for today's show when it's published after the live show's ended. I think that concludes the housekeeping. Is that all of them? I think it is.
I think so. Yeah.
It's a thin panel. There's a lot of people celebrating the middle of winter. I mean, New Year.
keep driving it home.
I just think it's nonsense. I really do.
Happy new cold.
Well, it's just, you know, people do all the stuff they do on New Year's resolutions and they prepare for the new year and then they go out and realise that it's cold and miserable and they're still going to be tucked up in front of the fire. Well, you know, that kind of mentality is depressing. You know, like an anticlimax.
Well, like you said, all they have to do is tell them and they'll believe it.
Yeah, they do. Or, well, they don't even tell them. They just say, here's your calendar. There you go. Why
There's chocolates behind each date.
Why have you spelt moonth? Month? What's the change of words? Shh. It's nothing to do with the moon. Shut up. Hey, Flatside. Happy New Year.
Hey. How's it going, guys?
Good.
Good, Flatside.
Other than hardly anybody watching. Please share the show if you're watching live. For some reason, I don't think any notifications have gone out, even though this is just a typical, normal, regularly scheduled show. But obviously, no one knows about it, given that it's completely normal time. But yeah, please share the show.
I think we ought to change month to Mr. Money.
Mr.
I
Money?
had a notification. I
Say
had
again.
notification.
Oh, did you, Brian? Oh, wow. I don't take any of it back. Please share the show anyway. release the carrier pigeons.
Didn't one of your kids say it was Mr. Money?
Yeah, Eleanor said it was Mr. Money when I asked her what. Well, the more she's cognitive, or whatever the word is, the smarter she gets, the older she gets. I ask her what the moon is. What do you think the moon is? What do you think the sun is? What do you think that is? You know, I can describe what it does all day long. But what is it? And I don't know. But she's full of wonder and imagination, right? So she's the best person to ask as far as I'm concerned.
I like it. There was a show by Art Linkletter. It was called Kids Say the Darndest Things. It was so fun to watch because they'd do that. They'd ask questions and the kids would say stuff like Eleanor did. It was great. What a laugh.
Well, they've got such basic logic for the most part, so they're going to ask a question that to us with preconceived notions about things seems absurd. But I bet you if you watch that show back, I remember that show, I bet you'd be surprised at how many things you're like, wow, that seemed absurd when I watched it, probably got a laugh, but now seems perfectly logical to ask, right?
Yeah. Kids view things. Go on.
I was going to say, why is the rocket going down? You see that video?
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah, followed
It's
by an
crashing.
adult giving an ad hoc explanation for orbital mechanics. You know, some ham-handed description of gravity from memory.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So looking back on it now, it's funny. At the time, I was going, yeah. That's pretty close.
Nodding along with the adults' ad hoc explanation based on a very, very vague understanding of these concepts that he's been taught in school, and that rendition to the kid, you were nodding along with him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's not. No, it's...
John, I must say I like your name on your father.
Father of a stolen child.
Yeah, don't
I
ever
just
have a
thought-
kid out of wedlock. Don't ever have a kid out of wedlock. You don't have any rights.
I see. Well, thank you for that.
Man, I wish I could give you guys some food. Making some nice porky course.
I just saw it. Hey, Nathan, since the show's got a thinness to it, you want to go to Master B, put up some teaser slides for the one-day sextant presentation I'm going to do?
Yeah, I've got it up now. I've got... I'll just adjust it a little bit so you can actually see what's in the image.
Got the guy with the sextant first, right?
Yeah, a guy with a sextant. He's looking with the side-on view
We'll
of
start
Polaris.
there. I think there's 5 slides altogether. So, John, I think you're going to like this because you made reference to a flat plane and how they measure and do surveying. This is exactly what they've done here. So a sextant is a right-angle instrument. It's basically a glorified protractor, and you're going to need a corner. And see where the eye is on that picture. That corner is where the vertex is, where a point of the 2 lines meet. And so here in this scenario, this image, you see Polaris as the luminary and the position of the navigator, and then you can find the angle to it. Now, what's important about that angle is because at any given time, those luminaries are at a zenith position over the Earth at some point, and that's in the nautical almanac. So if you go straight down from Polaris and you go to the eye, that might be, say, 700 miles or 1,800 miles. So you got your angle to it, and that way you know how far you are from it. Go to the next slide. Okay, so in order to work on the globe, they need to have the NCP, you see that? So you got to have the rays of the light, either the sun or the star or the moon, come in parallel, or you can't get an angle because they always take it to the center of the Earth. They take it to the R because that's how it would work on a circle or a globe in this case. But you see, the measurement is never taken from the core or the center. It's taken from the surface of the Earth, where you see that guy. But in order for it to work that way, the rays of the sun have to come parallel, or the sextant cannot work on a globe. Next slide, please. And the reason for that is this, because when you have a transversal, which I believe is the correct way of saying it, you have the 2 parallel lines of the ray, which is here shown horizontally. And then there's that line going through it. The angles are always the same. So that's the only way to keep the angles the same if you're going to measure from the center of the Earth as well as the surface of the Earth, is to have it work like this geometric picture shows. So the angles at 118, 118, 62, 62, they never change. Next slide. So here's a depiction of a sailboat on a globe and the center of the Earth. And then there's the top of the surface, as you can see. And so imagine someone on that boat with a sextant, and then they have to say, okay, it's going to the center of the Earth, and there's my BP is the geographical position of the sun there, and my apparent position is over here. And then they go to the book, and it says you're 2,500 miles. You draw a circle around it, you take another reading of another luminary, and you find where the 2 circles cross, and that's where you are. But you got one big problem, the last slide. Are the rays of the sun parallel? Does that look parallel?
No.
So sorry, boys. The sextant proves that we live on a flat Earth.
So it's not just that. Don't you point the sextant to the geometric horizon within their model?
Well, you got to have that the 0 line. It's always from the horizon up to the luminary. So on the right angle, that's going to be 0 to 90, because your zenith would be 90. So you're right. You have to point it to whatever your eyes tell you is where the sky meets the earth, or in this case, the sky meets the ocean. If it's a foggy day and you can only see 200 feet, then that's where you aim it. If it's really clear, it seems like you can see for miles, you just aim it to where they seem to meet.
Then you minus the elevation off wherever you are.
And then you minus, yes, and then you minus, and this is not confusing, but they make it confusing. There's only one dip angle measurement adjustment. If you're 9 feet above the water line on your sailboat, you got to minus that to bring it down to 0, as if your eyes were right on the water line. That's the only angle measurement that there is to fix a sextant. That's it. This is my whole presentation in 5 slides, basically. It's just so simple.
The dip that you're taking is what has been utilized in Al-Biruni's measurement. So he goes up the high mountain and then views the angle to the horizon based on a zenith with 90 degrees drawn from it. So I can't remember the name that they give that particular horizon. Let's just call it what it is, the imaginary 90-degree horizon. So if you're, for those who are uninitiated, a zenith is a line that runs from the sky directly down through your head, through your feet. Or from that, if you draw a 90-degree line out from your eyes, well, that will give you a imaginary horizon. And then you can take where the horizon presents itself and minus that off. And that's what you do based on the elevation if you were doing it with this sextant. So you're minusing off the height that you have versus the horizon that you see.
Are you ready to fight?
And further to that, if you imagine that you live on a ball and draw another zenith for the horizon, you can use the tangent to get your
Well, yeah, that when they do it and take a dip angle measurement from it, what they're saying is that the line that we draw to the horizon is a tangent, a straight line to the physical edge of the sphere. So that automatically makes that point, marked with an X in their mathematics for a curved Earth, that makes it a physical point, the edge of a sphere. Precisely what they claim blocks, boats and buildings. So they need the horizon to be a physical tangent point, capable of having a straight line drawn to it. To do geometry, that's what you require. Straight line, that's a tangent, and a physical point, the edge of their sphere, the tangent point. That's where the line meets, and the Black Swan shows that, according to their rebuttal, the line to the horizon isn't straight, so it's no longer a tangent, and the point that you see isn't a physical location, it's a refracted, non-physical optical location, apparent, according to them. Well, therefore, it's not capable of deriving geometry from. It's not a tangent point, it's not physical, and it never will be. At that point, from then on, from 1st Jan 2020, 1 year to the day, in our arbitrary consigned Gregorian calendar, it's been demolished as a physical point that you could draw a tangent line to. We're even told how non-straight the line to it is. So the horizon's not an Earth curve edge anymore. Globe Earth's dead. Earth is flat. Excellent presentation. I know it's just a taster, but thank you very much for that, 10th man.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to throw up just a few more for clarity, so if you want to go to them.
Oh, I'll pop it back up.
Tell me which you see, the star at infinite distance?
Got it.
Okay, so here's another one, a screenshot saying the same thing. So you see the angles are the same at the surface as well as from the center, but the rays of the luminary, sun, moon, star, whatever, has to come in parallel in order for this to work. Going on to the next one. So this is basically the way Eratosthenes with the sticks, he needed the light to come in at the same angles to get those same angles to work. Go to the next one. You see the two wells there, the 7.5. And you see how they depict the sun's ray coming in parallel when it doesn't in actuality. So really, it's just the angle of the sun on the flat plane that causes 7.5, but they need it to be 7.5 from the center, so they have to change the ray of the sun from parallel to, from diverging to parallel in order for it to work for the center. So the center of the Earth can never work with parallel light rays. And then the next one, you could see an old video where it shows the light rays coming parallel, and you're at 3 different spots. If you're doing a navigation reading from a plane, surface of the Earth, or the center of the Earth, they're all going to match, as you can see the angles there. It's just a big trick. And the last one is actually how you find your position with a sextant. You take 3 star readings. You're somewhere on that circle, star being in the middle. The zenith position of the star is always in the middle of that circle, but with a compass you draw a circle, and where they meet is where your position is from the use of the sextant, because of the angles off of a flat plane, never from a curved surface, because sextant cannot work on a curved surface. End of presentation.
Epic. Thank you very much. You're going to be editing that together then as a full presentation and sticking it out on 10th Man Rises?
Yes, or it's funny because there's so many other things I want to put in. I'm kind of stuck in my mind which way I want to do it. So I said, you know what? I'll just put a little short one together as a teaser, and then when I get to it, I get to it. But it's not going to say any more than what I just said there. So I've basically done it, except if I do it the real way, it'll be like 6-part series, 6 separate parts, because one's on the sextants, one's on this, one's on that, and at the end, the summary.
Ah, that might get trimmed out then. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, every time that you display a point in your presentation, you need to like dub over one of the ballers denying the geometry of Earth.
As the Star Trek line would say, "Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a presenter." You remember that line? I'm a farmer. This is like so odd for me to put these things together at times. So it's like, I'll do my best. How's that?
Yeah.
Oh no, that was great. I ain't trying to take away from it. I was just thinking about how the ballers react to it.
No, I liked it, John. I used it as a segue to do that line from Star Trek.
Yeah, you need somebody saying something to the effect of, the geometric horizon only exists in the Earth curve maths, as a response.
Now, I do have audio clippings that I did take off the internet that I am going to put on it, that people saying, if you stare at it long enough, it can look parallel, but you got to stare at it long enough, because it's not the way. So they're looking at divergent rays, and they're saying they got to stare at it long enough, and then you can think of it as parallel. I do have that.
Yeah, that's priceless. I've not heard that.
Oh, wait till you hear it. It's classic.
Yeah, well, people are, as we said earlier, people are obedient, right? If they're told to do that, that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's not a Dr. Becky channel. That's an old video.
Sounds like something she would say.
Well, they all have to say it. Look, the sextant is a mechanical tool. It cannot work on a sphere. It cannot work without parallel lines attached to a sphere. But it works on a flat plane, whether the lines are parallel or diverging. It doesn't matter what the light is. Because you got to have that 0 line to get the angle. You need a corner. Where are you going to get a corner on a sphere?
Well, that's where Al-Biruni's story starts, right? The process of the reification in an actual story where somebody's looked at the horizon, said it's a tangent point, and then that's where it begins, right? That's the story of the reification of the physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon, turning it into a tangent point, an edge.
Yeah, and all their illustrations, they show a tangent plane, a flat plane right there on top of the surface of the Earth, telling you that it's measured flat. Picture tells you they measured it flat because it has a tangent plane. And yet they got a round thing underneath it, as if you're really on that.
Right, exactly. Shout out to Sasha again, who's on the panel. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Says, so many things Why so many things starting with "you can think like"? Because that's how easy it is to brainwash your average Joe human. Just tell them, this is how it is. Okay, that's why. You can think this way. I can I? Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. That's what you normally get. It's amazing how easy people are to manipulate when you look at it.
When you say you can think, you're already suggesting that you want in the first place. So, like, it's allowed. So they're assuming that you're already wanting to do that.
But they don't know what I can think.
Most of the time, people are
They
told
understand.
what's what by the authorities. Well, look into the etymology of the word authority. They author the way things are. And if that's how it's been written down, then that's how it is, right? Now, on a even very base, simplistic level, most people, if you tell them, don't believe everything you read, and you reference it to the newspaper, for example, people will nod along and go, yeah, I get that. But then they'll selectively believe everything that they're told. You know, even if they disagree with something, they'll selectively disagree with it based on the other things that have been told by the exact same source. It's just comical when you look at it from the sidelines. Again, I could give props to Thrice-8 Hermes, who made this philosophy a lot more digestible and understandable to me. It's like, when you appreciate that you're not going to change the minds of the masses. They want to conform. They want to be told what's what. And they even tell you in anger and disdain how unless you've got an alternative, they're not going to give up on their I've been told this, so therefore it's that. You know, so once you accept that, you can only take charge of your own things, your own life, etc., which I shouldn't have to say to people, that should be obvious. But when you're out and about, you can only really laugh at it. Not outwardly, not like literally laugh in people's face for being normies, but what else are you going to do when you see people behaving like normies? Are you going to try and tell them? Are you going to try and wake them up? It's like, back to the Matrix analogy, most people will fight tooth and nail to reject what you're telling them. So is there any benefit to you whatsoever? Nah, of course not. Not in a psychopathic controlled system. Why would you ever think that you would benefit from trying to help people out in that regard? They'll scorn you for it. Much better to just have a little chuckle and realise that the whole world's a joke. Don't let the laughter be on you.
And the character Cypher in the Matrix was willing to turn on his own people to go back to that ignorance.
Yeah, so
but he didn't even actually have any confirmation that he would get back. The mere idea for it was enough for him to do it, because there was no guarantee that it was even possible. There's no proof of that in the entire movie.
He also had an accomplice who also wanted back in. You know who that was? Most people miss this. How did he have a meeting with the agents, right? Can he plug himself in? No, of course he can't. So how did he sit down with Smith, eating a steak, describing how he's going to sell out his the pilot of the Nebuchadnezzar, Morpheus? How does he get to do that? Well, he needs somebody to plug him in and out, doesn't he? So who's that? See if anyone can guess.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
Well, it's there. It's right in the plot. It's Mouse.
What?
It's Mouse. The guy who's telling
I was about to say that.
is peddling the idea of the false reality to Neo, telling him how he can set up a little date with the woman in red. Well, that implies that he's going back into the construct to have little affairs with the woman in red. And everyone around the table, in other words, they all hear him doing it, have all had what is described by Switch as the digital pimp at work. So obviously they're implying that Mouse wants that reality back. Now, how else would he, i.e. Cypher, get back into the Matrix undetected? Well, it's also implied that Cypher not only sells out Morpheus, but is more than happy to sell Mouse out, because Mouse is there in the Matrix because, presumably, being his co-conspirator, he wants to just get rid of Mouse once he's made his little deal. So he leaves him to be the first to be captured. He's the one guarding the exit point, right? When they all go in. And when they change the Matrix and he sees the black cat, by then, Mouse is already well and truly done for. because he's trapped in the building where Cypher's dropped the phone, selling out his companion in setting up the deal in the first place. There you go.
Oh, Mouse was at the top of the building, right?
Yeah, he's guarding the exit point where when they exit the building, Cypher chucks the phone in the bin so that the agents can find where they've come in and out from.
Right. And then everything got bricked up.
Exactly.
And in the end, they were going to kill Cypher anyway. They said the plan hasn't changed. Send the Sentinels.
Right. Exactly. But they've got no soul, right? You're talking about programs in that respect, so. But yeah, the point is that I think this little thread that we've just started to discuss about the Matrix has come from the fact that there are many people, and I see the people who come here on the opposing side as those people. In other words, whether they like it or not, they're shoulder to shoulder with us, wearing rags in the Nebuchadnezzar, realizing that we've been deceived. They just don't want to believe it, right? They want back in. They just want to forget all about the fact that we've been deceived because it's very, very torturous cognitively. I'd just rather you lot went away. And if I direct my anger and frustration towards the people who are perpetuating the idea that keeps me up at night, hopefully it'll go away. If I get rid of those people, that'll go away. I'll be reinserted into the Matrix and the world will continue to be a sphere spinning in a vacuum. So just need to get rid of the people who are making it obvious because they're the ones keeping me up at night. It's not the fact that I hold two positions simultaneously and one of them can't ever be true. That's that we're on a sphere. So they're all here as Cypher and, in the case of the example I've just given, Mouse, and they want back in. Problem is, you can't go back, right? You can't go back in. There is no reinsertion into happy, blissful ignorance that we've been deceived in many different ways. Once you know, what have you got as choices? Well, clearly to a lot of these people, they think one of the best options is to attack the people who are telling them. It's like, well, from my perspective, I don't care if you're here or not. Just go away and get on with your life. If you think we're talking nonsense, you wouldn't be here if you were comfortable in your life choices and reification of the globe Earth model. You just wouldn't be here. Like the people who aren't here that are getting on with their life right now, probably getting over a hangover. Well, they don't care about us because their blissful ignorance of the fact that the Earth is obviously and observably flat doesn't lose them any sleep. So why would they be here to challenge us? If they came across us by accident, they might just snigger and move on because they're not deep enough in to realise the unfortunate nature of your reality, which is that it's not a sphere. And I think most of the people here, even at a subconscious level on the globe side of the argument, know it.
Well, isn't that why the question of why would they lie? It's a cognitive trick so that they don't have to accept that it is a lie. They just can then, just skirt away from that because you're no longer talking about if it's a lie. You're saying, well, why would they lie since it's an obvious lie?
That's a fallacy. It's called an appeal to motive.
Most people need somebody to announce that. Body of science, body of some government, somebody, They're waiting for that, some big mainstream news.
John, you said, why would they lie? When you were talking and saying it, I was thinking, well, because they get power, they get control. So why does anybody lie? If you lie, there's something in it for you, not the other guy. So why would they lie? Because there's something in it for whoever is lying on any subject and not the other guy. Because if you tell the truth, then there might not be something in it for you. It just might be for the other guy, or there might be something in it for both of you. But when you lie, there's always something in it for you and not the other guy.
And while that's true,
yeah, but
hold on, sorry. While that's true, it's not for you to discuss it. Now, I'm not saying you can't discuss it. Don't take that the wrong way. It's an appeal to motivation fallacy. So if somebody is caught red-handed stealing something, and you sit around in the office going, "But why would he need to do it? The guy's got a smart suit on. He's got a really nice watch. He's pulled up in a Lamborghini. Why would he need to steal a sandwich?" And you sit around the office all day debating about why the motive. It doesn't matter. Who cares?
Can I answer that? I've seen this across many subjects. The person who says that, why would he need to do it, is always looking to the world through their lenses. They don't realize there's bad people. And so they can't think that way. So because they can't think that way, they don't think that way exists. Because in their world, They don't think that way.
Exactly. And that's why people are generally so easy to manipulate. Well, by my standards, most people are honest, upstanding, decent people. Well, why would anybody have any motivation to hoodwink me to keep me under control? Why would anybody do that? People aren't like that. Yeah, they are. They're called psychopaths. Look them up. The world's run by them.
But if you all believe it, then you just don't notice it because you're not looking out for it, because you can't imagine that anybody would be doing that, and you don't want to imagine it.
Exactly. And what are they? Well, they'd be the blue pill people, right? But they haven't even been offered the choice of a red or a blue people. They're just total ignorance of it all and blissful at the same time. Now, I'm sure there's plenty of people here in the trenches that would love to go back to that. We can't. You're stuck here with us. And who's the one smiling and laughing about it now? It's certainly not you.
That's funny. They're stuck here because they know too much.
Yeah. One man's heaven is another man's hell.
With you.
Go on, John, sorry.
I was going to say that line from The Watchmen, like, we're not stuck in here with you. You're stuck in here with us.
Yeah, that's Rorschach, right? So he's basically saying to the people in the inside of the prison, yeah, it's not the case that you are trapped. It's not that I'm trapped here in this prison with you lot and have to be fearful of you. You're all trapped in here with me. so that's exactly it. And one man's hell is another man's
heaven. He's the one
heaven.
To be feared.
Say again?
Yes, he's saying that he's the one to be feared.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying we should be feared, but what I am saying is we're here in what we could perceive as my little heaven. I'm really happy. I've got my Coke, I've got my coffee, I'm chatting with friends. It's wonderful. But for the people in the chat, I mean, I'm not really don't pay attention to it when it's live. But for the most part, I don't look at it. And I know what's going by from the globe side of the argument. It's horrendous. Right now, some flat earthers take umbrage to it and get quite offended by it. It's like, now realise what the situation is here. They're in a lot of cognitive pain expressing it. They might be directing it via projection towards you and making out that you're all those things. See if what it really is, it's just their projected pain. Right? Well, I'm not in 1 ounce of that cognitive pain. Not 1 ounce. So, who's in the better situation? Now, yeah, you could look at it from a wider perspective and go, yeah, but generally, society ridicules you. Well, no, they don't. Do I go around wearing a Flat Earth t-shirt? Well, actually, no. Unless I want to provoke people, right? Now, some people do want to provoke people, and more power to them. But generally speaking, I don't ever bring up the subject when I'm out and about. Therefore, it's totally inconsequential to my life, unless I make it so. So therefore, I've got no different life to the normie who walks around without worrying much about whether or not the world's a sphere. And me, equally, I walk around in the same blissful ignorance of that particular aspect of the programming because I know it's not true, and I'm very comfortable with the world being flat. So it's not cognitively painful for me. Now, does that mean I'm reinserted into the Matrix with that belief that they have? No, it doesn't. But I'm still walking around just as happy as anybody else on the street. Maybe making the same moans about masks or whatever else people are moaning about in that particular time of the year. But ultimately speaking, who's closer to being, for the standard of Cypher, reinserted into the Matrix and happily going about their lives? Well, it's us, not them. The ones in trench level, yeah, everyone else who's the same as us in that regard, doesn't even have any conscious awareness that the world could be flat. They're just living out their lives as they blissfully thought it was on a sphere, and don't know that the world is flat because they've been told otherwise. Told. Hey, Adam.
Afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year and happy Friday to you, Nathan.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah, it's funny you say cognitively painful. To me, it's not, because I know I'm on a flat plane, but then I'm looking at what's happened since this whole thing. It's very cognitively painful to my friends and associates who refuse to discuss this, to the point of saying, never bring it up. I don't ever want you to talk about it, to, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. I'm not having cognitive pain discussing it. I want to get to the bottom of it. They're having cognitive pain even thinking about it.
Hey, Chocolate.
Yep, certainly the cause for a lot of anxiety. Hey, Chocolate.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy middle winter. Happy cold as shit. Yeah. That makes sense.
Did they
What's
ban
going on,
fireworks
everybody?
at your place too?
I don't know what this is in reference to, but another shout out to Unitox Femu, Sasha, who says, cognitive pain hurts. Indeed. I had that virus. ... Passed. Thank you for the super chat. Maybe that'll need a bit of explaining, Sasha. Or maybe not.
Well, let's say that everybody has that in the first moment of, how to say, acknowledging that the earth is flat. It was not so, okay, it is okay. At least for me, it was fucking, I don't know, like, oh my god, what is going on? That's not possible, you know. But on the end, I realized that is, and I leave it alone. It's flat, and what I don't have any more that pain.
Yeah, that moment I visualise as being the shot from Jaws, where he sees the woman being attacked on the beach, and the camera angle pulls away, and his foreground gets closer as he gets further away, as they zoom in and pull the dolly away. Well, that kind of realisation as the world closes in around you. Oh my god, it's true! Oh my god, all those people I ridiculed, that's me now.
With my, sorry, Nat, I was speaking with my brother, with my wife, I was like excited. I was like, oh my god, do you know what they're like? Oh my god, I was like, I'm crazy. What? I cannot think like this. And they were like saying, man, no, that's not true, blah blah blah.
That's
Yeah, I was alone.
Go on, Adam.
So you say, like, I agree with you. We all have that moment. When you start on this journey, you don't start as a flat earther. First thing you do is go off to prove those idiots wrong. So you go in and you're being honest. You know, you explore these things, and it's when that reality dawns where we have that moment and we step forward as say, no, can't be a ball. And you move from, that's the point of the dissonance, where they've got the evidence, they've got the thing, intellectually honest with themselves, they've got a problem. And that's when the dissonance kicks in, where we all have that point where we decide which way to go when we realize the lack of evidence for the ball first. That's where the dissonance kicks in. I think
but for
after
example,
you make the
this Adam,
discovery.
about gravity. In all my life, I know that gravity never ever was proven. For that, I didn't even need flat Earth. I knew that was a theory. They put it like a story, and that was belief. And I knew that all my life, for example. And I don't know why people now want to speak about gravity like, it's proven. It is never proven, man. When I learned in school that it was not proven. At least, I don't know.
It's just like I knew all my life there weren't people upside down, antipodal from my position, thousands of miles underneath my feet. Even as a kid, when I was raising my hand and asking the teacher that shit, I knew that just could not be the case. That's just not reality. That doesn't seem real, even at that young age. So how, as an adult, I'm gonna accept that as my reality? No thanks. I'm good. You can keep that.
Yeah, you and me both. When we both look at the sky, we're both looking in the same direction.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that begging the question fallacy. It's just comical now I look back on it, because in the early days of this subject, I saw that as a real problem. You know, explaining the antipodal star movements. And then eventually you figure out, well, beyond the assumption that when I travel south, I reach a point that's antipodal from whence I started. Beyond that, you don't actually have any demonstrable proof. You just beg the question. You're assuming, and it was easier for me when I thought about the journeys I took, looking out across the flat plain that I was flying over. At no point are you inverting, and there's no suggestion on any journey that you're going to arrive antipodal from where you began on a very long flight. It just isn't in any way suggested or hinted at. Now they would say, oh, it's very subtle. Well, it's like, well, how subtle? When we're talking about physical sphere edges that we can't see, it would be impossible to determine. But if it was actually a sphere, it would be really obvious, as opposed to your justifications for why we can't see it. Well, it's like, no, beyond the assumption that we arrive antipodal when travelling a long distance because we're on a spherical surface that we've assumed, there's nothing to prove that. So you go, well, if I don't assume that I've travelled and reached a point that's antipodal, I assume the thing that you're trying to tell me I'm proving by doing that, then there's nothing to suggest that the sky isn't still above me when I started and above me when I arrived. I've travelled out towards the horizon in a southward direction. Does that mean that I've travelled across a spherical surface that I've assumed? Well, absolutely not.
I think all that is true that everybody said, but I think the ego and the pride of every human being also gets in the way. Because if you even entertain this topic, then you're saying, oh, someone sold me a false reality. How could I be so stupid? I can't be that stupid. No. I'm not that dumb. And who are you to tell? All the scientists say this, and you over there, you're just a farmer. And so this ego comes in, because if they cave into that, not only this, but so many other things they've been lied to, and they just haven't woken up yet. That's too much to bear. So they fight it because they don't want to know.
But it's also the fear of ostracism. Like, oh God, does that mean that
If I tell everybody,
are going to do the same thing to me?
But there's the pride.
people are going to think I'm crazy if I tell them. Nobody's going to believe me. You have to face that moment. And there's certain people that get to that moment, they're like, nope, I'm not built for that. I can't go against the entire world. I can't go to work where everyone thinking that I'm a flat earther and they're going to debate me and all that. No, I can't do that. Well,
like
some of us can very well do that shit.
Like that colleague of yours?
Huh?
You had that colleague, right, at work that's just knows that you
I
talk
got a
about
bunch of them.
every time you bring it up, he just walks away. No, I'm not listening.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he literally put his fingers in his ears and said, la, 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 I can't have this conversation. I was like, wow, I thought we were grown men here. My bad. You can't have a conversation? You have to do that? That's crazy.
Well, in the early
Happy New
days
Year.
of this topic, it didn't help that there was people out there on the flat earth side of the argument making really bad arguments that were easily debunkable.
Indeed, laid out for them to make. Hey, Chris, Happy New Year to you too.
Hey, how's it going?
Very well. Very nice
Of course.
day. Spring is
Been
in the
listening
air.
to the show a lot lately. It's been really good.
Say that again.
I've been listening to the show a lot lately. It's been really good.
Oh, thank you very much. I owe it all to the
A
panel.
lot of good. Yeah, a lot of good sound clips and stuff from Rumpus and Tim Osmond. Tim Osmond, that might be, yeah, because I was listening to, like, was it yesterday? And you were saying, well, with 2020 as bad as it was, you got Black Swan and you got Tim Osmond. So you got Black Swan to kick off the new year, and you had Tim Osmond to close it out with his now probably maybe the most famous quote of Flat Earth so far, of saying that the horizon is not Earth curve.
Yeah, I'll just correctly quote him. Nobody claims the horizon is Earth curve.
Right. So I don't know if you heard. I doubt you listened to Jose's or follow up with that. But I was on Jose's like a few days or a week after that, and I was on his show, and I asked the panel, I was like, "What do y'all think of what he said?" And half of them acted like they didn't know what I was talking about, which is probably BS. But the other half, well, and Rumpus was on there. And he said, well, he's like, well, actually what Tim said is nonsensical. It doesn't make sense. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Because haven't you all for years been saying that? He said, no. What we say is that Earth curve causes the horizon. And so I was like, just sort of, yeah. I was like, well, what? And I was like, well, can't you have a horizon on a flat plane too? And half the panel said, oh, no, that's stupid. That's wrong. And to Rumpus's credit, he said, yeah, actually, you can. And then, Rumpus, we went on for 45 minutes, and he was drawing all these like graphs and pictures to show that you can have a horizon on a flat plane. So then I said, oh, well, thanks for being honest. I said, well, how do we know that? You said that the cause of the horizon is Earth curve, and you corrected Tim. But I'm like, you just admitted it could be a flat plane. So how do we know which is which? And he said, well, because we can measure the dip to the horizon. And so, of course, I said, well, it's like, oh, you're measuring to the thing that you just said isn't a physical thing and doesn't really exist and is a parent object. And, of course, he goes on from there. But I actually got a good, laugh or two out of that one. So,
well, you say he goes from there. No, au contraire. From there, his argument dies Because what's that you say? We can take a dip angle measurement like Al-Biruni did to derive the physical radius value based on the physical tangent point that he's taking a dip measurement from. Well, no, that would imply that the horizon is a physical geometric sphere edge horizon capable of having an X put on it, described as a tangent point with a straight line. Now, we present the black swan and they tell us just how non-physical the horizon is and how we can't draw a straight line to it. It's refracted. Now, unfortunately for them, their refraction requires R, leaving them in a paradox and the end of their argument. So while you say he goes from there, no, that's where the globe dies.
Yeah, the horizon, it's not physical, but they think of it as physical, though.
Sin Cleanser was there. I don't know if he heard my story, but I'm pretty sure he was there. He heard it all.
That's it sounds like Rumpus, the greasy lawyer, trying to clean up somebody's very bad quote. That's what it sounds like to me.
Let's bring some context to this. Nathan and Master B, I put up Andrew Thomas Young. Let me know.
We'll see if we can hear from Sync Lenser, who's actually, I forgot to take you off mute, my friend. I'm really sorry. Or not?
I'm slightly confused about the people that say you wouldn't see a horizon on a flat plane. Okay, so the horizon is the apparent meeting of the ground and the sky. So what do they think we would see on a flat plane? All ground or all sky?
Yes, because when they depict the globe, they have an orthographic view that only has the horizon formation by way of a physical obstruction of Earth curve. So their horizon in orthographic view is only caused by the Earth's curvature. Now, if you straighten out that line, you end up with a potential infinite line, because you can draw the target on the right, the observer on the left, and draw a line between them, and without any Earth curve getting in the way to cause the horizon, you can see forever. Now, the reason you can see forever is because in their orthographic representation of the world, in reality a hijacking of perspective, the target will be assigned a feet and inches value. So if the target's on the right and it's assigned 100 feet and you're the observer on the left, if you draw a line between those two things in orthographic view, you can write any value you like on the line between target and observer. So you could write 1 million miles on it and it'll still be 100 feet, the target that is. Now, in reality, we don't see like that. Things get smaller into the distance. Their angular size reduces. It's called perspective. But their mathematics takes perspective and calls it Earth curve. As things recede into the distance, i.e. angular size reduction over distance, perspective, they assign Earth curve obstruction, physical geometry, to the horizon. That would be the point where things diffract, become too small, 2c based on a limitation of the angle, or weather that gets in the way beforehand. Either way, they'll assign it as Earth curve obstruction. Now, do you want to read out your Andrew Thomas Young quote to round out the live show before I ask everyone to stay tuned if they're watching on a premiering stream?
Yeah, calculating atmospheric refraction. All the discussion above deals with plane surfaces, but the Earth isn't flat. To deal with refraction in a curved atmosphere, we have to introduce some geometrical considerations, which we have been put on a separate page.
And those geometric considerations will require an R value derived from a physical tangent point horizon. And they're going to move it by way of a refracted R value they can't measure anymore. It's Arwin's paradox. With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, became a member, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video. Happy New Year.
Oh, what a name! What a lovely name!